Good evening. This is the Athens City Shade Tree Commission meeting for Wednesday, December the 13th, 2017. We have no tree permit or right-of-way issues, so we'll go straight to Title 37 Landscape Ordinance issues. I'd like to invite someone to the podium to represent people from 175 Columbus Road. If you could introduce yourself.
Hi, my name's Clinton Kinsley with the Buckley Group Engineering here in Athens. And we did the site design for this project at 175 Columbus. The impermeable area that we calculated is 56,941 square feet. And permeable area is 83,682 square feet. And that calculates out to 85 trees required. We do have some placed within the right-of-way. For our future plans, it was not possible to get them all in the right-of-way or on our property to get to that 85 number. So, mostly selected hardwoods, red oak, white oak, some hybrid red maple, American linden, and bald cypress. Does anyone have any questions?
Okay. I'm looking around at my colleagues, and I think I'm the only one with a printed copy of the plans. So
I apologize.
if you've got any extras,
get you one of those.
It would be maybe helpful to some of them.
5.
Okay.
You can share.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Square is 175.
It's where a motel burnt down, I think, many years ago. So this is the satellite map of the area.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And the one of the questions I'd got for you was on the Door Lane side of the property.
Yes.
There are in the satellite photographs there are existing trees. I know you've been taking out some dead trees, but are you planning to leave any of the existing trees there?
The owner would like to remove the old pines that are there and replace them with hardwood.
Okay, yeah, that's
more
that's
interested in that type of trees.
Are there any deciduous trees there that you plan to keep? We like to keep good trees if we can.
Right. On this plan, I have not counted for any existing deciduous.
Okay.
I just assumed all replanting new.
Okay. Well, we would encourage you to substitute some of the ones you're proposing to plant with the existing trees, as long as they're large shade trees.
Okay. I'm not sure there are a lot of the good quality that the client is looking for. Okay. But we will take that into consideration and see what kind of good ones we can pull out.
Now, can you explain why it's necessary to put so many trees in the right-of-way?
Well, with the proposed lot to the east there, they would like to do a similar, almost mirrored setup. So that really kind of hamstrings us in terms of what we can place where, because they would just be removed for that future project and have to be placed in the right-of-way anyway. We do assume that we will need some islands in that future parking lot, obviously to pick up for the increased impermeable area. We'll have to do some calculation to see how many that really is. And that phase of the project may shift and adjust a little bit, because that's not the current design. So
yeah. I guess I have a question for Rick. What happens when plans come forward for those future properties? What's the process that they have to go through?
We'll have to go for variances to do anything.
Okay, so they would be coming back to us then again?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Are both
Cypress considered shade trees?
They're on the list. So.
Yes, they are.
And
yeah,
that is a wet, low area.
Yeah,
so that's why I put both cypress.
It's an
there.
excellent area to have them. Yeah, yeah. No, they're
It's a great choice. I
Yeah.
just couldn't remember whether
Yeah.
it was okay.
yeah.
Yeah, well, they don't provide much shade. I mean, relative
Understandable.
to city.
Yeah.
However, it's better to have a tree, a tree in a site than it is to have, no tree or small.
Right.
tree. So-
In the interim, the undeveloped portion will just be with, they'll just put grass there or something?
Yeah,
and,
yeah. They'll have to seed and mulch that for
Okay.
stabilization. Yeah.
And the 85 trees that we need are based upon the entire site or just,
It's based on the entire site with the future project being grass as of now. So we will have to come back and plant more in the islands of the future parking lot to make up for that increased impermeable area.
so what we're doing now is putting part of the trees that are required for this phase on the second phase site.
Area, yeah. I mean, it's all the same property.
So
They're-
that, but there's gonna be very little room once you put that impervious, the surface that won't allow water to pass
Right.
through it.
Depending,
I
depending
mean,
on,
there'll be a lot of that kind of surface, and
Yeah.
you're gonna need a lot more trees.
yeah. Like I said, we haven't run the calculations with the future parking lot because it's not a finished product. So we don't know how many more we will need, but we plan to address that when the time comes.
I think they'll be able to do it.
We ought to what?
I think they will be able to do it. In terms
Oh, you think so?
Yeah, yeah. I don't think it's going to be.
Okay, I worry about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But okay.
I would just like to address the applicant and make sure that they understand that any of the trees in the city right-of-way on Door Lane, they can't touch without permission.
That's correct. And
I think we remember what happened when we
Yeah.
started clearing out the area, the calls I got. So I just want to make sure you
Yep,
remember that.
that's understood, and
Okay.
all the trees that are on this plan are on the property line.
Okay.
So,
All right.
we don't plant any or take any out in the right-of-way of the northern door lane there.
Right. Well, I do want to commend that it does look much better. You took all the brush out, but I just want to give you advance notice of that. So,
Yep.
okay, very good.
Why isn't there a set of trees here?
I like the size of your islands.
Well, you can thank the architect for that.
However, my colleague has a question about there seems to be a big gap between the two of the islands, and we're wondering why it's necessary to have such a large gap between those islands. 'Cause it would be nice to get more trees over the parking areas if we can.
Right, so there are three sets. There are three planting areas within the parking lot. And it looks like there's room for a fourth.
Like at the same spacing as the other two. Yeah. I can talk to the architect, Jim Thomas, who's actually here today. I can talk to him about that and see because I think we have enough parking in our parking requirements if we needed to.
Yeah, but one of the purposes of the putting shade trees in is to cool the pavement.
Right.
So if they're actually in the parking lot,
Yep.
it's more effective than on the periphery, depending on what the exposure.
Yes.
Where the sun's coming from.
And I can discuss that.
Yeah. Well, it's nice to have so many trees on the south side, but you're right about having the extra trees in the parking lot. I think.
I just didn't know if there might be infrastructure planned or underneath that area or something.
This was just the site plan that we were starting off with. Did you say?
I think that we could easily put an island between there and a peninsula
Jim.
corresponding to that. What should I get there?
Peninsula?
Would it be okay if I came up so I could point?
Certainly, yes,
Drive?
yeah, please. Do. Yeah. You want to use the larger one.
So I was looking at our
parking count, making sure that they stay under the required. So it looks like that we could do another island here with 2 trees and another peninsula.
That's
coincide.
good.
So that's
Yeah.
going to line up.
Right, so it would be symmetrical.
That would give us 3 more trees and shade the parking lot.
Yes,
Exactly.
yeah, we would like that. It would be an extra one.
Right there,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I
We
thought.
would do a double island again, and then a peninsula.
Great.
And if they just kept that and then added those, could that count towards, like, if they plan more, if they have like a credit, or would
Well-
that just be? I mean, they're worried about going over. I don't think that's.
Rick has said that they have to come back anyway when
Right,
they
okay.
come. So
Okay.
I'm assuming then we look at the entire site and
Okay.
say what's happening on the
Second
entire
phase?
site.
That's correct.
If they've put extra trees on this first part,
This is
yes, that's going to credit them with trees for the second part.
Okay.
Yeah.
And are all the trees on the periphery, are they all 30 feet apart?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
So, Rick, do we need to address the trees in the right of way? And what we
Yes,
talked about?
they're
gonna get there.
We're coming to that. Yeah,
Okay,
we're just trying to get the all the details straight. So it looks like they're going to meet the requirements of the Title 37 in terms of numbers of trees. But to do that, they're going to have to plant some trees in the right of way. I see no reason not to allow them to do that. But I think need to get some comments from other people as to whether they're in agreement or not with that. What's the...
So the only snag is that the city then has responsibility for the trees instead of the.
Yes, although the city, if the owner asks permission to do it, the city can grant
Right.
the owner permission to maintain those trees. And as long as we're happy with the way that they're being maintained, then we're fine. I mean, we want large shade trees, so we
Right.
maintain them by lifting the branches so that they do get to the height that we expect at maturity. But I don't think there's any reason not to in this case.
What percentage of the 85 trees, or how many of the 85 trees are actually on the property that is being developed, as opposed to the right-of-way?
I think it's this front row down the bottom here, on the south side, and I can see some on the west side. Is it the where Door Run connects to Columbus? I'm assuming it's that way around. No, it isn't. No, it's on the Columbus Road side and on the Door Lane.
Right.
I counted 58, but that's really fast, that are within the property.
Yeah. So that means 20 something, 27 that are not. So it is a large number.
And I think that several of the trees that are off of Columbus Road, the second row trees on the second phase, are also on the right-of-way.
Looks
Yeah,
like
there
some
are
yeah.
three or four.
3 or 4 of those that are
Yeah.
on the right-of-way, yeah.
So does the Assistant Service Safety Director have any comment on putting the trees that many trees in the right of way?
No, I think it's good.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So are there other questions? If not, can we approve this plan as presented with the suggested modifications, and I'll write them up and give the minutes to Rick. Okay, we approve your plan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much.
Now, next, the highlight of the month, Ron's report. We've been waiting for this.
You have?
Yeah.
Well, you were copied on some correspondence today, David, regarding the Tree City USA application. I don't know if you had a chance to review that.
No, not yet.
But anyway, it's 90% complete. I did write our annual work plan, basically a summary of what we did this year regarding our tree canopy. so that I can submit that. The only other thing that I didn't have at the time I submitted it was a signed copy of the Arbor Day proclamation, which I now have. So that will finish off the application for 2017. I believe we were at $6.13 per capita with our tree canopy. To put that in perspective, we have to be at about $2.33 per capita to get our Tree City USA.
Now, some of that money includes the clearance we've been doing for Emerald Ash Borer, I would assume.
Oh yeah, any tree maintenance that we perform is included in the application process, and then volunteer hours are included in that. Routine maintenance, all that's included in the per capita cost.
Good.
I'm toying with the idea, and I think we're going to pursue it to some extent next year, is to have a tree contract. And what that will do is allow the city to basically go out to bid for tree care companies to do an estimate for how much it would cost to remove hazardous trees in the city of Athens, particularly Emerald Ash Borer. So what this would do is, currently our process is, if it's a hazardous tree, tree care companies may work with us, although they are not bound to. So we have to wait, and sometimes we have to wait a long time because the Emerald Ash Borer is keeping tree care companies busy. So with that said, this would give us an opportunity to get a little bit more control and to actually go out to bid and have a company commit to spending. We would pay X amount of dollars until this amount of work is done, and we can control the scheduling so we can have an idea when this work is going to be completed. So I think it would be a good maneuver, looking into some sample contracts and drafting stuff up for legal review, so that we can move forward with that.
Did you consider having two contracts rather than just letting one contract for this?
No.
Okay.
What do you mean by two?
Well,
like
you would
one
have
for removal?
you would have two contractors under contract, so that if you really needed somebody, you might have a much better chance of getting them to
So that's
to
an
respond.
interesting idea. I didn't think of that.
Okay.
I can certainly consider that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how big the contract is and so on and so forth. I mean, if
I was thinking probably, I don't know. I got to look
if it's
at
a way of
I gotta look at
supporting
the final budget
local
and see
businesses,
what
I'd
we-
like
Are there
I'd like
local
to-
businesses that you have information about that you know are going to be available?
It would depend on who would bid.
But there are
I would
qualified
hope
local
that,
businesses.
yeah, there are qualified local tree care companies that
How many
would
are
be
there?
allowed to bid.
Yeah.
I can think of four off the top of my head, 5. So there's quite a few, but
And would they be certified? Or registered with the city?
oh yeah, absolutely.
They're,
they would be
they're registered with the city, but they won't have
They aren't necessarily
certified
certified arborists. All of the tree care
They
companies.
won't be certified? Are?
No, because
I think there's only 2.
I think Ron is one of the few people around here who is certified. There's
think,
one tree care company I'm aware of that's certified.
Joshua Tree Care and Schumacher, I think, are the certified.
Okay, there's 2 then. Yeah.
There was one by my house one day, and he said he was, but I don't know how you find that, how you verify.
Well, you go to the
Go to the
International
directory.
Association of Arborists, and you put in our zip code, and they tell you how many are within so many miles of us.
Do they?
I
Yes.
think Windsong is.
Yeah, Oak Gasway, yep.
Yeah. But the other thing is that they have to be licensed through Rick's office to.
They're
Yeah.
registered through
Or
a contractor
registered, rather.
registration through our office, that's correct.
Yeah.
And what do you require for?
We require their insurance, liability insurance, they provide that for us, and any other insurances that are required for that type of work. And workers' comp, things like that,
Oh, good.
yeah,
Okay.
so,
But you don't care if they know how to cut a tree?
no.
If they're doing removal,
Yeah, right.
if they're doing pruning, we're concerned.
I'm sorry. would you
If they're
say?
doing removal, not so much. If they're doing pruning work, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, will these contractors be doing pruning, or will they just be doing tree?
I would
tree
like to do it
removals?
for pruning as well.
Okay.
So we would want,
Okay.
I think that will give us a more competitive bid, more realistic bid.
Okay.
A lot of trees that we have that I get complaints about, a little structural pruning gives us 5 or 6 more years.
Yeah.
So I'd like to proceed with that.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Fall planning, just an update. We have 7 right-of-way trees that have been planted. We also had the opportunity to get 11 trees planted for us in West State Street Cemetery. They were some overages from Greenleaf Landscape, and Attila Horvath volunteered his time to plant those trees for us. So that was a really nice thing. To get some new trees in West State Street Cemetery. He wants to plant some in West Union Street Cemetery. We're gonna have to do some planning there before we start planting a lot of trees in West State Street, in West Union Cemetery.
Why is he focused on that particular site? Does he
Why
have some
that-
special reason for wanting to do it in the cemetery there?
Yeah, the cemetery is an open space that could use some tree cover.
Oh, it needs
and-
tree cover.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, absolutely. If you drive past West State Street Cemetery, if you look past, if you're going on West State Street heading west, and the cemetery is on your right, you can see a couple trees near the fence. But once you get back into the open space of the cemetery, there aren't any trees.
You walk down that alleyway.
Yeah, yeah. So what we're trying to do is we started a tree buffer on that fence line in that alleyway, so that it's gonna be a start, of hopefully a nice shield for the neighbors in the cemetery.
When I was in the cemetery with, I think, some other tree commissioners, with somebody who really knew the cemetery, I said, "Oh, well, there's space over there." And they said, "No, those are unmarked graves, but you can't tell. It just looks all open."
Again,
So do
yeah,
you know, like, for planting the trees where the bodies are buried?
Yeah, that's why we have to be really careful when we start planting trees at
Yeah.
cemeteries, because of that very reason. So we decided to go against the fence line because there are no graves against the fence line. We're far enough away from the fence line so mowers can mow. We're about 3 mower widths away from the fence, but there's no graves there. But yeah, if it looks like a wide open space, especially at West State Street Cemetery, there's some graves in there. So West Union doesn't have that problem as much, but there are some.
Yeah, they indicated that, that area over there, which looked available, was not, that was all. And he said, in fact, there were no real, or almost no spaces left there.
It's true.
I think maybe you told us recently that the city was taking over the West Union Cemetery.
This is our 3rd year running it now. We've had it for 3 years.
But what other ones do they?
We have the West State Street Cemetery,
Oh, you had those
and
too.
we've had that for a long time. So by Ohio Revised Code, if there is a cemetery in the municipality that is owned or run by a private entity, if they no longer can or want to run it anymore, it
Even if they
defaults
don't want to, they.
defaults to the municipality. Here you go.
So who in the city does the mowing and the?
Our Lands and Buildings Department.
Okay.
We kept a couple staff members that were working at the cemetery before we took it over, and then we have some additional seasonal that we hire to maintain it. So I have.
I still have my question about the trees at the swimming pool. The 2 bald cypresses that were removed from that traffic island in the parking lot closest to East State Street. And the curiosity as to why they were removed, but the smaller trees were left behind.
I don't have an answer yet, David.
Okay,
Sorry.
but leave it out there. We're waiting for an answer on that one. And then the other one was I sent you a picture of some work that had been done by the sewage works, where it indicated that somebody had been probably put a line through there or something, and it was identified as a no-mow area. And I was just curious as to what the background was for
Yeah,
that
so
one.
we did some research on that. I forwarded that email on to Jessica Dine, and I don't know, I had not gotten a reply
Okay.
on that, so yes. Follow up on that one.
Okay. Other questions for Ron? If not, we'll move to maintenance of the tree canopy. I did go and clear some vines. We didn't do so well in terms of recruiting volunteers, but we're going to have another go in the spring. But I did put in a couple of hours for you, Ron, if you want to add my time for volunteer work. Clearing vines in the area behind what I think is the well, it's the Giant Fabrics Mall. That's what I think of it as. But it's the trees behind Kroger's and that area where we planted some oaks many years ago, and I was making sure that they were clear.
Is that where the cats live?
No, the cats are further down. The cats are more behind stables and in amongst the blue spruce trees that are down there. And there's a couple of bald cypresses down there that I'm trying to encourage. They're now quite large trees, and I'm hoping that they can climb out of that area and spread, because it's an ideal area for them. It's a marsh, wetland type area down there. So that's what I did on Saturday morning.
Good.
Anything else? Any other business?
Can we talk, can I ask a
Question.
Sure.
Again, going back to this Goodwill property. So let's say, for sake of argument, they come back to develop the balance of this property, and they build it similar to what they have shown there in terms of future parking and future building. Looks like two buildings or one long building that's kind of split a little bit. Is that going to how many trees would that require? If this site required 85, would this one also require about 85?
Well, we've already taken it into account by looking at the entire area.
With the building site, with the impervious part.
I think there are sufficient trees there. In fact, I think there are too many trees.
Is that true?
There.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
They will be adding obviously more islands.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that. I was just sketching on here, actually.
Yeah, once I get the plan and I look at it, I emphasize the addition of trees as much
How
as
many are
possible.
showing? That's what I can't figure out.
But yes, that'll be factored in.
Yeah, there'll be
The
some
overall
trees
project.
that'll be gained, but not a lot.
Right.
Because basically the remainder of the site will be developed for the most part, with a few islands,
Right.
like you say, and maybe there's another spot or two where something can happen.
Right, and there may be an opportunity there to bank.
Yeah.
If
There also
we
may
address
be
that,
another
but
curb cut coming out onto the road.
I don't know.
Yeah. It depends on how it's used, but anyway, at any rate, okay.
From what I
So-
understand, in speaking with them, the existing plan and the curb cuts that are existing is all they
All
plan.
they're gonna do?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're not gonna put any off.
Will, from what you've been able to gather, is the property itself going to be used entirely by Goodwill, or is it going to be another tenant?
Other tenants.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, if you look at the structure, the plans, I don't know if you got the second page.
Yeah,
Well, actually, if you look at the page in the front, it shows the fine print, which I actually take my glasses off to look at. The main portion of the building, the large portion, is Goodwill, and then it says tenant 1 and tenant 2
Oh, okay.
in the additional building.
Okay. So
Yeah.
this is this actually being built by Goodwill?
It's being built by the contractor that was here for them.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they're gonna lease the building from them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Buckley.
That's the
Buckley's the
engineering company.
engineer.
the architect.
The
Buckley's the
architect was Jim.
So this was initiated by Goodwill, or?
Well, they were requested to build.
Okay, well, so the, that site was included, okay, good enough.
Yeah.
That clears it up, helps me understand it better.
Other questions?
I think I will go back to them and ask them, and I'll have some more discussion with Ron and Andy Stone, and maybe a sidewalk would be a good addition to the right-of-way where all those trees are gonna be. That would be a nice addition down there, to put just a sidewalk there.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking.
Yep.
But I'll see if they would like to do that. If I may, I would like to say that with the leaves coming off the trees, It's afforded the solid waste and litter control officers to observe and check out a lot of ravines and backyards and things like that, where normally brush is covering trash. So we're hot on that, and we're finding out a lot of stuff that's obviously covered by greenery, and we're getting those cleaned up. Some in residential areas, where tires have been thrown down ravines in their backyards. We're catching those. We're getting those cleaned up. So they're doing a great job at doing that.
Yeah.
And we're
So-
addressing those situations.
So what is done with the tires? Is there a good?
They're recycled. We collect them, and then when they have the big recycling program twice a year, we get with the county also, and we get those recycled.
Right. And those, they took those for free, but it cost the people who did that, it cost them some $20,000 or something like that to hold that day, but it was.
When we discover issues like that, we provide a warning and ask them to clean it up. And if not, on the private properties, we ask them to clean it up and take care of it. If not, then they're issued a ticket for trash. On public right-of-way areas, we tend to pick up all the tires and we store them until it's time
That's
to
terrific.
turn those in. We did 43 tires the last batch, the last turn-in. It's quite interesting to see big truck tires pulled in the back of our little trucks, but we manage. So, that's it.
Okay, anything else? If not, we have the minutes of the last meeting. Do we have questions? Do I have someone who's going to propose we?
I move to accept the minutes as written.
Lee.
I second that.
Thank you, Emily. Are there any objections to approving the minutes of the last meeting? Hearing none, we have minutes. Are there any questions at all out of the last minutes? Okay. Well, in that case, I'll just announce the next meeting will be next year on January the 11th at 4 p.m. here in the council chamber again. With that, we're adjourned. Thank you.